the Delphic Priestess. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Feminine Magic. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the video. In ancient Greece, the center of the world was considered to be in Delphi. If you were a Greek general or even a queen needing advice on the future of your kingdom, you would seek consultation with Pythia, the oracle in the temple of Apollo at Delphi, Greece. Rulers of the highest level sought counsel with the Pythia, and that was a marvel in those days. Who was the Pythia? Pythia was the name of the high priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. She served as its oracle and was known as the Oracle of Delphi. Her title was also referred to as the Pythoness. The Pythia was established as early as 1400 BC, and was widely credited for her prophecies uttered under divine possession by Apollo. The Pythian priestess emerged preeminent by the end of the 7th century BC and continued to be consulted until the late 4th century AD. During this period, the Delphic oracle was the most prestigious and authoritative oracle among the Greeks, and she was among the most powerful women of the classical world. Aristotle, Clement of Alexandria, Diodorus, Diogenes, Euripides and Herodotus all wrote of the mysterious oracle of Delphi. Her legend traveled to Rome, where Roman scholars Julian, Justin, Livy, Lucan, Nepos, Ovid, Pausanias, Pindar, Plato, Plutarch, Sophocles and Strabo wrote about the Pythoness. What made her so intriguing? Was it the fact that thousands of people would travel to Delphi as a pilgrimage to seek the guidance of the oracle? Or was it her mysterious origins of being the original priestess to Mother Gaia? Was it her sheer power and influence across the ancient Greek world? She was someone who served divine truth and could part the veils between illusion and truth. She learned these temple arts in Crete, Egypt, Atlantis and other star systems including Sirius, Pleiades, Orion, Lyra and beyond. She has grounded this purity in Delphi. She was an ancient mystic. We will truly never know but get a glimpse as we walk in the footsteps of those ancient ruins. But Pythia was not always a priestess of Apollo. The Pythia of Delphi is older and more powerful than the Olympic gods, and her prophecies began long before the Greek gods were even born. Gaia gave birth to Python, a colossal earth dragon and the original oracle at Delphi. Python inherited Gaia's wisdom and knowledge, and as guardian and protector of her sacred city of Crisa, he sent prophecies to his oracle priestess Pythia and inspired her with visions. This is a continuation of the Tree of Life cults that worshipped the Mother Goddess as a life-giving tree whose treasures were protected by a dragon. The Tree of Life concept flourished from Central Asia and Asia Minor to the Near East and Aegean in Anatolia, Egypt, Crete, Cyprus, and Mesopotamia. Pythia's association with Apollo came much later, as she was originally a sibyl of Mother Gaia. She was from the lineage of the ancient mother and snake goddess. Her powers came from the Kundalini energy of the earth. The great Kundalini serpent in the sky and the great Kundalini dragon energy of earth was symbolized by the serpent and the ancient feminine power of healing, transmutation, regeneration and transformation. The Olympic gods eventually overthrew Gaia, slew Python and buried his body beneath Pythia's own temple at Crisa. Apollo took the Pythia as his own head priestess, integrating her power of prophecy into his temple, renamed the sacred site for Gaia's worship from Crisa to Pytho and eventually Delphi. But even before Delphi, before Crisa, the Pythia was an oracle priestess of Gaia's wisdom long before the Greeks had gods. The hymn to Delphic Apollo conveys that there were once Cretan priests at Delphi who had brought their Bronze Age mystery cults with them. It describes in detail how Apollo chose his first priests, from a ship full of Cretans from Minos, city of Knossos, who were voyaging to sandy Pylos. Dolphin Apollo, who had Delphinios as one of his cult epithets, guided the Cretans to the shore of Crisa and inspired them to build an altar there for him and honor him as the dolphin god. He then led them to Pytho to become interpreters of his oracle. We know from Plutarch that Ditina, the Cretan sea goddess, and Delphinios, her cult brother, were closely associated. In the book Cretan Elements in the Cults and Ritual of Apollo, the author says, the island cults may very readily have come from Crete, as the dolphin god and the cult of Delphinios traveled to both Athens and Asia Minor. Thera and Chios were settled by Cretans. The dolphin god is vouched for at Athens, Chalcis, Oripo, Delphi and Sparta. At Athens the cult is intimately connected with Theseus, showing how closely Athens and Crete were linked during this time. Furthermore, the cult at Delphinios may have existed at Pytho for a long time before giving itself a name and later fused with Apollo. Little is known of the exact workings and rituals of Delphi. However, most sources refer to the Pythia issuing prophecies while in ecstasy or trance under the influence of vapors. The priestess sat in a tripod chair near a crack in the earth. Fumes and gases would swirl around as she shifted consciousness into an alpha state. Bay leaves were often placed in the room and burned as incense while priests acted as scribes and relayed the seeker's questions to her. The Pythia also underwent monthly cleansing rituals, including a full ceremony and procession on the 7th day of each month. In this cleansing ritual, the Pythia would bathe in the sacred spring and drink from the holy river before returning to the temple to veil herself in purple and dress in white. During the main period of the oracle's popularity, as many as 3 women served as Pythia, with 2 taking turns in giving prophecy and another kept in reserve. The scholar Martin Litchfield West writes that the Pythia shows many traits of shamanistic practices, most likely inherited from Central Asian practices, including the rituals of goddess-worshipping Anatolians. He cites the Pythia sitting in a cauldron on a tripod, while making her prophecies in an ecstatic trance state, like shamans. Seekers who went to the oracle to ask for advice and would undergo a multi-stage process, typical of shamanic journeys. First, there was the journey to Delphi. Supplicants were motivated by some need to undertake the long and sometimes arduous journey to come to Delphi in order to consult the oracle. Then, there was the preparation of the supplicant. Supplicants were interviewed by priests to prepare them for their presentation to the oracle. Then the supplicant had to go through rituals involving the framing of their questions, the presentation of gifts to the oracle and a procession along the sacred way carrying laurel leaves to visit the temple. Finally, the supplicant visited the oracle, already in a very meditative state from his or her shamanic preparation, and consulted the Pythia. After receiving the answer, the supplicant would depart and return home. "Know thyself," she said famously. Those very words are written in the halls leading up to the temple. The oracle's teachings were about going within and navigating the vast labyrinth of the subconscious to discover the lost fragments of our soul so we can integrate them together. The job of the Pythia was a respectable career for Greek women, and she received many liberties for her esteemed position. Much like the Pythia's position in Crete, the Delphic oracle in Greece enjoyed freedom from taxation, the right to own property and attend public events, a salary and housing provided by the state, and even gold crowns. Pythia has had many names and flourished for centuries. The temple in Delphi survived until AD 390, when the Roman Emperor Theodosius I silenced the oracle by destroying the temple and most of the statues and works of art to remove all traces of paganism. Pythia's legendary powers and wisdom inspires us even today. Her wisdom teaches us that through knowing ourselves and journeying within, we are able to penetrate the mysteries of shadow and light to know the truth of who we really are. That brings us to the end of today's video all about the Delphic Priestess. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to leave a thumbs up and to subscribe to Wild Feminine Magic for even more fascinating content, just like this. As always, thanks for watching. See you again soon in the next one.